Okay. I guess we're ready at any time. Okay. Okay. Testing, testing. Because I can't listen in my ear because Okay. Let me ask Monica. We're ready. You want me to start? To go? Question mark. Have to take out my ear from the talking.
I don't know if it's the network or it's for us. Protect. Okay.
Yeah.
A generic out. How you roll it? So he's ready. Thanks,
Rolling
sir.
now? Okay.
Generic out.
Okay.
He's going whenever you're ready.
Okay. We're here live in front. Oh, no, we're not live. Sorry, I'm going to try one more time. We're here in front of Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. Been out here for a few hours today and watched this scene unfold at this elementary school. Let me step out of the way and show you the scene right now. A few hours after so many law enforcement rush the school building. You can see toward the back of the school, it appears that's where more of the command center is. That's where the source of the investigation is focused right now. We have seen multiple law enforcement agencies out here today, including DPS, Border Patrol, local law enforcement. If you're not familiar with this community of Uvalde, a very small town, tight-knit community, as well as the surrounding counties of these border communities. And I can tell you that the sheriffs in the surrounding counties immediately sent EMS units. They sent officers to support the Uvalde City Police and the Uvalde County Sheriff's Office and whatever was unfolding inside that school building today. We don't have a lot of information exactly what happened. We're still trying to figure out what happened at this time right now. It looks like a lot of law enforcement has left the scene, but you can see where that investigation is focused right now. When I first arrived here today, people were lining the streets here, and I was watching law enforcement walk from the school, and you could see visibly from the faces we had not confirmed any deaths yet, and we had not confirmed that so many kids had been injured inside, and I could see from their faces the tragedy that happened inside that building today. Reporting in Uvalde, I'm Vanessa Croy. Editors, can you cut out that point where I was rambling in the middle, please? Can you ask editors to cut out that point in the middle where I was rambling that we don't that our chopper? I'm just standing in the shade. I gotta stand in the shade. Oh my God. Yeah, I heard the shooter was dead. I can't find Twitter. It wasn't on his Twitter.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson in Washington. The governor of Texas says at least 14 children and 1 teacher are dead after an elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. That's about 80 miles west of San Antonio. The governor says the suspect is also dead. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are involved, and we will hear from the governor in a moment. And in the meantime, senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge is with me. Catherine, if the FBI and Homeland Security are involved, what would their role be at this point?
Well, John, the standard practice would be if a suspect is identified for the FBI to assist in the analysis of what they call pocket litter. Pocket litter are the kinds of data, pieces of paper that may be on an individual, a cell phone, any other electronics. They're trying to understand what their digital footprint was prior to the attack and whether others may be involved. There's also a scrubbing of surveillance and security camera video that federal authorities can assist with. Unfortunately, this is all the after the fact. You know, the goal of Homeland Security and FBI in any of these cases is trying to intervene and thwart this if it's possible beforehand.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. We also have Kathy Guider, a former FBI agent, who's now joining us. Kathy, what is the FBI doing right now, do you think?
I think right now, law enforcement is definitely looking to gather all the evidence at the scene, gather any information they can regarding the suspect, a home address, an office address. They're going to gather all the information that they can to put together who this person was, what the motive was, what was going on in their mind. So they're going to be doing a lot of information gathering, evidence gathering at the scene and at various locations.
And Kathy, I understand you also teach law enforcement as well. This is a part of our modern life. What would the training have been that would have kicked in when this happened shortly around noon local time?
The officers are going to do what they were trained to do. Like you said, you know, we teach them to just, you know, it's a reaction. There's not a, they don't have to, you know, go step by step what was happening. They know what to do. They've been through this. Unfortunately, you know, we have drills, we have mock scenarios that they, you know, officers go through. So they knew where to go, where to respond. They knew to send officers to, you know, hospitals, to intersections. They knew what to do. They know what evidence they need to gather at the school. And then other people, detectives and others will be going to, like I said, the home of the suspect, gathering information there with search warrants. Of course, somebody's going to be writing search warrants. So everybody, pretty much knows what they need to do. They've learned this in the academy. They've learned this through subsequent training. They know what to do and what needs to be gathered.
And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. We're still basing this on what the governor said, but with 14 children dead, one teacher, does that suggest anything to you about what might have happened in this incident?
From what we have seen in the past, there tends to be something that has triggered this person, whether it's a family member, whether it's a retaliation, it's vindictive. And then other times it's purely a hate crime. It's purely, a crime of a religious nature. So right now it's too soon to tell what exactly it is, but to take that number of people, there's usually some kind of passion involved in the person.
And we have the comments from the governor now, which we're gonna listen to now.
The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him.
Kathy, do we still have? Catherine, let me ask you, if we know that 14 are dead, and then maybe as many as 12 more are still in, the governor said he had a handgun. That sounds like more than a handgun.
Well, he said there's a handgun and they believe there may be a rifle, but they're working to determine that as well. The thing that caught my attention, John, is this description of the 18-year-old suspect arriving in a vehicle at the school and then sort of almost hopping the fence or moving into the elementary school. And it goes to the idea that there may have been a precipitating event. It sounds like that may have been the catalyst for going to the school and then having that kind of firepower. So you asked me earlier how federal authorities kind of kick in here. Well, one of the things the ATF can do pretty quickly is understand the genesis and the origin of those weapons. How did he have them? Were they his weapons? Were they purchased legally? Kind of the backstory of the weapons. And I think that's going to be extremely important in this case because of the firepower that was unleashed on those very small, innocent children. I mean, it's so hard to get your mind around.
That's right. So that there may have been something that set him off, and then he went and carried this out, but he was just heavily armed. I don't want to
go too far and speculate, but based on the description and what we heard just from that former FBI instructor, she spoke specifically about an event that may have triggered this individual to launch the attack. But it certainly caught my attention, the description of the vehicle approaching the elementary school and then going inside with at least one, potentially two weapons.
And just to update everybody who may be just tuning in now, the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott, has reported that 14 children and one teacher have been killed in an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. The shooter in this case, an 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, was the name the governor gave us, has also been killed. We also have with us Kathy Guider. Kathy, what did you take from the governor's press conference, if anything?
Another sad fact that we've had another young person committing such a horrific crime. We're seeing a pattern of this across the country, and it's sad, and something's going to need to be done. But I agree, I believe something triggered him, and he had firepower. And most likely, if he shot 14 people, he's had to reload, most likely, depending on the weapon, and continue shooting.
Here we're watching footage of families leaving the Civic Center. Obviously, local authorities are trying to be in contact with terrified parents. The school was set to end the school year this Thursday, and so this was the culmination of a school year, the middle of the school day, and there at the Civic Center you have local law enforcement and parents being informed about the status of either of their children. Catherine, we have here a DHS comment from DHS.
Yeah, it's reinforcing what we talked about earlier, John, that the secretary has been briefed and has provided all of the assets that he can to support not only the law enforcement operation, but also sort of the human piece of this operation. I think it's worth noting that according to our contacts, multiple Custom and Border Patrol agents also went to the scenes. So federal authorities surged the scene along with local law enforcement to help support that operation. And at least one of them was wounded in the process and remains in stable condition. I just want to add maybe a big picture idea here. We just had a report from the FBI about active shooters inside the United States, and the numbers are clearly very sobering and I think worth mentioning given what's unfolded in Texas. We've seen a surge in the number of active shootings in this country between 2020 and 2021 of 52%, and since 2017, it's up over 95%. Last year alone, 61 shootings, 30 states, more than 100 killed and 140 wounded. And as Kathy was just saying, in some of these cases, extremely young people with access to extremely powerful weapons with just devastating consequences for all involved.
In a local report we were listening to, local residents said this kind of thing doesn't happen here. Those numbers suggest it's happening in a lot of here's where it wouldn't have correct. Before. Mm-hmm. Kathy, if you're still with us, retired special agent, as Catherine just mentioned, there were two, we have reporting that says 2 officers were struck by rounds as they surged to the scene. We've got 14 children dead, 1 adult, as many as a dozen injured. What is it like for law enforcement to face that, to be on the other end of that kind of firepower? Clearly, there was a lot of firepower there.
Clearly, it's scary, but you're trained to do a job. You know what your job is. And so when you enter that school, at the very beginning, you don't know if there's one shooter or multiple shooters. We've seen multiple shooters in various locations. So when you're going in, you don't know what you're, going to encounter. And so you're prepared. You do what you were trained to do. And unfortunately, it appears there was gunfire exchanged, and that's a part of the job. And sometimes you get injured, and hopefully you don't. But, I'm sure they were trained. They know how to go into a school, into a hallway, how to cover each other and things of that nature.
Catherine just mentioned the uptick in mass shooter events. How would that change training? I mean, this has already been a part of our modern life, and training, as you and I have already discussed, but these numbers continue to go up. How do you imagine that would change training?
I think it'll continue to be on the training schedule. And so maybe if you only received active shooter training 1 quarter out of the year, that they're going to probably be increasing the amount of training, getting those numbers from the FBI and increasing the scenarios, the mock scenarios, the role play, so that, when you come together with multiple agencies going into one school, you have to train for that and how each agency and what their role is. So I think there will be increased training in this area.
And do you, Kathy, see when I've talked to law enforcement in the past, some of them have said in the very contentious gun debate in America that just as a practical matter, that firepower in the hands of 18-year-olds of this magnitude is just too much for them to be on their other side of, and that there has to be something put in place because the odds are just not in their favor in these kinds of incidents when you can have that kind of firepower at the hands of anyone who wants to use it.
I would agree. An 18-year-old, unless they are well-trained, unless they are a seasoned hunter, maybe, they don't understand the firepower they have. It's maybe exciting to them, but they don't understand ultimately all the consequences. And with that firepower, the law enforcement is going to come at it with equal or more than equal firepower to stop the threat.
Catherine, let me ask you a question that's a little out of the main, but clearly this shooter, there has been some speculation about social media and attention. Part of what we have seen in these kinds of shootings, the increase that you talked about in mass shooting events, is people seeking notoriety.
Correct.
And so the way in which we handle this from a law enforcement standpoint and a public message standpoint is crucial, it would seem to me, because we have people who are trying to get themselves known.
That's right. I've recently been able to review some internal law enforcement documents that talk about the uptick in the use of not just social media, but live streaming these events. If I could put it in my own words, it's a generation that has an intimacy online and in this digital universe that really can propel them to seek the spotlight in ways that are unimaginable to other generations. So you're quite right to point out that part of the responsibility in covering the facts of what happened are not to amplify the individual involved.
All right, it's 5 o'clock in the East, 4 o'clock in Uvalde, Texas. I'm John Dickerson in Washington. We're coming to you live with a special report. 14 children and 1 teacher are dead after an elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas confirmed the death toll in a press conference earlier, and confirmed also that the suspect is dead. Uvalde, Texas is about 80 miles west of San Antonio. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security are involved. And let's listen now to what the governor said earlier.
The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him.
Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge is with me. Catherine, we've also just learned that South Texas Blood is sending blood to Uvalde, Texas, to help with at least 12 other children who are being treated.
Yeah, that's right. Just from a federal law enforcement standpoint, what we're seeing is assistance not only from Homeland Security, but other federal agencies with the investigation, but also what I'll call the human piece of supporting the people in Uvalde, Texas. The Homeland Security Secretary, we've learned, has been briefed, and also agents from Customs and Border Protection went to the scene immediately, like a surge capacity, to assist, and at least 1, perhaps as many as 2, were injured in the process. That gives you a sense, I think, John, of the scale of this shooting, and as we just heard from the governor, the sense of the firepower involved, and that is where, of course, the ATF can also assist.
Here we have pictures of a vehicle that may very well be what Governor Abbott referred to, that Salvador Ramos, the suspect who's been shot, who's been killed. We don't know if that's his vehicle. It could very well be. We're also joined by Kathy Geider, a former FBI agent. She is joining us. Kathy, what is the FBI doing right now?
The FBI is going to be gathering information. So since we know a suspect's name, they're going to be talking to the suspect's family members, mother, father, brothers, sisters. What did they know? When did they know it? They're going to be trying to learn everything they can about this child. So as was already mentioned, social media. What social media platforms was he on? What was he posting? Things of that nature. They're going to be talking to maybe classmates. If he's 18, he may or may not be in school, but they're going to be talking to everybody around the suspect.
And we're joined now by Derek Gonzalez, who joins us on the telephone. Derek, I understand that you were in an auto body shop nearby when you heard gunshots. What did you hear?
Yes, sir. I have an automotive and tire shop nearby, and we were going to go to lunch, my worker and I. And when we were going to lunch, we started hearing gunshots before we got in the truck, and then they started coming out more and more. So we got in the truck and we went around the corner, which is Robb School, and that's when we saw the funeral home people. They were crying and yelling to be careful because people are shooting.
And Derek, when you say funeral home people there, that's because there's a funeral home nearby the school. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I understand you had relatives in the school. Your niece and nephew were in the school?
Yes, I got nieces and nephew there, and then my aunt, she's a 4th grade teacher there at Robb.
What are they okay?
Yes, sir, they're okay. Because that's the first thing I went in my head when I heard everything, too, because my aunt was in there, and then I got family members there, too.
So how did you find out, Derek, that they were okay?
Like 30 minutes later, I was making calls, and then there was officers out there, and then I was telling my aunt was there, and then I guess they were escorting the kids out of the classes, and my aunt went into the funeral home where they were putting all the kids and the teachers in.
And Derek, when you said we were headed out to lunch and you heard the gunshots, how many do you think you heard?
There was at least maybe 5 or 6.
And have you had a chance to talk to your aunt or any of your relatives?
I was talking to my cousin, which is her mom, and my cousin's, which is her daughter,
yeah.
my aunt, and she was saying that she was okay, but she was close by in that same building.
And she was saying that your aunt was okay, or that your...
Yeah, everybody was okay.
And did they describe what it was like from inside the building?
Yeah, they said it was that they just could hear screaming, and then there was like a silence after that. I guess where they were all hiding. I guess the teachers were probably telling everybody to get down.
Because they've been trained.
Yes, I know the teachers, they go through a training when stuff like this happens, where they have to lock the doors and get under the desk.
Derek, you mentioned that you're very close by to this. There's the funeral home. Can you tell us a little bit about your community?
Yes, the community where I live in, Uvalde, Texas. It's a community like it's a small community where we're all together, and in the neighborhood where the school's at, everybody knows each other. Everybody has grown up around there, and we're always there for each other. And when we heard all this, all the neighborhoods started coming out, running to the school, because we know everybody has family there at the school.
And what was your first reaction when you heard the shooting? Did you immediately know what it was?
Yes, because we here in Uvalde, there's a lot of activities to go like hunting and all that. But I knew we're not in hunting season right now, so I said this is not something like somebody's doing to like sport activity. It's somebody shooting for real. So that's when I knew there was something going on.
All right, Derek Gonzalez, thank you so much. We're glad to hear the good news that your relatives are safe. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Just to update those of you who are joining us, Governor of Texas Abbott has confirmed that 14 children and 1 teacher have been killed in an elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. That's about 80 miles from San Antonio. There are also as many as a dozen other children being treated. Blood is being sent into the area to deal with the wounded. I'm here with Catherine Herridge. Catherine, we've been talking about the federal law enforcement response to this. Do we expect that agents are already on the planes headed there?
I don't want to speculate in this situation, but based on my experience, they'll try and assist with the personnel they already have on the ground, because like in many states, they have fusion centers and joint terrorism task forces where they have essentially federal officers who are in that state. So that's what I would expect first and foremost, as opposed to surging assets in from Washington, because it's so time consuming. But they're going to be taking the same kind of procedure. Now that the suspect has been identified, doing a scrub of all of their social media so that they can build a profile, trying to understand whether this person acted alone, whether there was premeditation. It was sort of a flash to bang situation where it was precipitated very quickly. But I think most importantly, the access to the weapons. This person is 18 years old. We're doing our research on what the carry laws are in Texas. I think based on the reporting I'm seeing so far that it's actually 21. Okay, so he's 18 years old. So how did someone who is 18 get a hold of at least one, possibly two weapons to use at an elementary school? So these are all of the sort of the backward tracing that federal authorities can do to support the locals who are really dealing with a very human situation right on their hands right now.
Kathy Geider, retired special agent, is with us. Kathy, Catherine just mentioned that delicate balance of the FBI wanting to get in and move as quickly to find all the details of the crime as possible, while you also have a community that is in shock and grieving and overwhelmed by this. How do FBI agents carry out that balance?
Well, she was correct. They're going to use agents on the ground, like from the San Antonio office or the Houston office will come in. And, you know, FBI agents go through excessive training every year on all different kinds of topics and a lot of training in the academy. So, you know, they know how to balance dealing with victims versus dealing with the suspects. And they're going to do, you know, what they need to do. And there's going to be many. Some will be dealing with the suspect's family. Some will be dealing more with the firearm side of it and assisting ATF possibly. Some will be dealing with the social media side. So everybody has a role. They'll know their role and they'll, you know, fit in there and all work together.
Kathy, the social media side, this is clearly a part of these shootings that we've seen increasing as a part of our culture, the attempt by those perpetrating them to get attention. How does the FBI think about that as a part of these kinds of incidents?
Well, there's several different types of cyber squads within the FBI, and so you have more of the forensic nature that works on the background side, the back side of it, and then you have those who deal more with the information processing. So they're going to look at all aspects of it to see how often he posted, what platforms he posted on, and you know, as we know, like this generation, the 18-year-old. That's their kind of their life. That's how they communicate for a lot of the time, is putting stuff on social media and out in public source. So all of that is going to be reviewed to kind of see what was his pattern, what was his history, and how did it lead up to this day and time.
And Catherine, we can imagine also, we've been talking about the federal response. We can imagine that this will be something that the president, he's overseas, but after having gone to Buffalo, President Biden, this has now become a part of the role of the modern presidency to speak to these kinds of moments that tear open a community and, in fact, the whole nation. And
as we discussed earlier, there is that bigger context picture. Just this week, we had this FBI active shooter report that found that between 2020 and 2021, we saw an increase of over 50%. And if you go back to 2017, so this pre-pandemic period, we see an increase in active shootings by 96%. And last year, 61 across 30 states. So this is not just concentrated in one part of the country. This is really diffuse.
And did the report mention any of the causes for why those numbers are up?
Again, I don't want to speculate. I would like to look a little bit further because that was my question. Like, what is the common thread here, if there is a common thread?
Kathy, let me bring you in on this question. I mean, as Catherine is mentioning, this happens in a larger context, the numbers of these active shooters increasing. What does your expertise tell you about, as Catherine mentioned, this is happening all across the country. What does your expertise tell you about the root causes, or what, for those of us who are looking for wisdom in this moment of tragedy, where we could find that in those numbers of active shooters that have gone up?
Well, I don't have a psychological background or degree, but I think there's probably a lot of factors that add into this. You know, a lot of these kids for the last 2 years, their schooling systems, the way they went to school was changed and disrupted. their friend patterns and their ability to communicate and connect with their friends was changed. I'm not saying that makes it right in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying what a lot of kids have gone through has made a lot of difference to their psyche, to their personalities. Also, they have grown up with social media where, when I was in middle school, I didn't stay on a phone all day long. I wasn't posting selfies. We had different ways of growing emotionally that these kids don't have today, or a different way of growing emotionally. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into what we're seeing happen.
Our Janet Chamlian, who's based in Texas, is with us now. She's joining us on the phone because she's on her way to Uvalde, Texas. Janet, tell us what you can about this community.
Hi, John. It's a small town. The next closest town is San Antonio, of any considerable size. I believe it's about 15,000 people. I have been there before. It's a lot of ranches and open space, if you will. I do know that there is a Customs and Border Patrol checkpoint near that community. Apparently, it's only about 3 miles from the elementary school, and the roads through Uvalde and through Uvalde County are regularly patrolled by Customs and Border Patrol because it's sometimes considered a route up. Well, it is a route up from the southern Texas-Mexico border. And in this case, we are learning that Customs and Border Patrol did respond in some way to this tragedy. But Uvalde is not like a lot of, big cities in Texas. It's very small, it's remote, and while we never expect anything like this to happen anywhere, it seems an extremely unlikely place in the Lone Star State, John.
And Janet, that might account, would it, the fact that you had Border Patrol officers in the area would account, because there looks like there's quite a law enforcement presence that would be, oh, sorry, Janet, we have a press conference here. Let's tune in.
Please understand at this time, we will be making a statement and not taking any questions. So we please ask, at this time, we will be making a statement and not taking any questions. Here to provide a statement is our Uvalde CISD Police, Pete Arredondo.
Good afternoon. As she mentioned, I'm going to make a statement, and at this point we won't take any questions. We will give you a time when we'll be addressing the media soon. At approximately 11:32 a.m. this morning, there was a mass casualty incident at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. The school has children that are in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. I can confirm right now that we have several injuries, adults and students, and we do have some deaths. The suspect is deceased at this point. DPS is assisting with the investigation. And at this point, the investigation is leading to tell us that the suspect did act alone during this heinous crime. Families are being notified, and we are providing services to them as the district should. As far as the rest of the district is concerned, safety measures were taken to make sure that we had a safe release for the rest of the district. Throughout our city of Uvalde, and we had numerous law enforcement officers and agencies that assisted with the safety release for those students. We do want to keep all their families in their prayers. I hope you do as well, and we also want to respect the privacy of the family. Everything is still being worked on, and again, we'll notify the parents and the families as soon as we have some news for them. Thank you so much.
We greatly appreciate and patience with us. Please know at this time we are only making a statement, and we will be releasing more information as the investigation continues. We appreciate your courtesy. At this time, it concludes our press conference. Thank you.
We were just listening there to the report from the local Uvalde police, affirming some of what we already know, which was that at 11:32 local time, there was a mass casualty event. That's about 5 hours ago. The suspect acted alone, they say, and that's about all we got. They took no questions. Governor Abbott of Texas has previously reported that 14 children and 1 teacher were killed in the elementary school there. We also heard from the press conference just now that the grades were 2, 3, and 4. the elementary school there. The shooter who acted alone is deceased. We also have reports that there are 12 other children being treated in local hospitals, and blood is being rushed to the area from outside of Uvalde, and parents are being still notified, according to the press conference we just heard. Do we still have Janet?
Yes,
Janet,
I'm here.
we were talking, there's quite a law enforcement presence in this very small town. Would that be because it's, as you were mentioning, there's the Border Patrol in Uvalde?
So there are stations, of course, all across Texas, and specifically these highways that come up from South Texas and the Mexico-Texas border. And there is a station there, but my guess is at this point, resources are coming in from San Antonio, and as you were discussing earlier, probably already en route from Dallas and Houston. The Border Patrol stations are generally not largely staffed, but would respond to an emergency at a school when called upon, and are generally armed as they patrol the Texas roads.
Kathy Guider is also with us. She's a retired special agent for the FBI. Kathy, we just heard the suspect acted alone. How does that change the scope of what the FBI would be doing now in this immediate aftermath of the shooting?
It's not really going to change a lot. It just maybe decreases their workload, a slight bit, since they only have one person to focus on. So once again, they're going to be going to that person's family residence. They're going to be talking to the family. They're going to be talking to maybe coworkers if he had a job. They're going to talk to friends, neighbors. Like I said, they're also going to be gathering any social media information, gathering any devices, a telephone, a laptop, and they're going to be working on all of those. So it just means most likely one person whose information they're going through rather than multiple if there was more than one suspect.
We've also just been informed that the president, who is in the air, has been informed of the shooting. That's all we know, but that he has been informed. Catherine, were you?
No, I just think, like so many folks who are listening at home, John, I think the details of that last press conference, we knew it was a shooting at an elementary school, and now we know that it was really the youngest, the smallest, the most vulnerable children that were targeted, according to the police, by the suspect. And I just, on a personal note, it's very hard to get your mind around an 18-year-old singling out children of that age with one or perhaps two weapons.
That's right. And continuing the carnage, we have no additional details at the moment. Governor Abbott of Texas telling us earlier that 14 children and one teacher have been killed in Uvalde, Texas, at an elementary school shooting. We have as many as a dozen other children are in the hospital being treated. The local parents are still being notified. School parents are being notified from this mass casualty event at the school where second, third, and fourth graders attended school, and the shooting started about 5 hours ago. The suspect acted alone, and we've been seeing pictures of a vehicle on the school grounds that looks to have been the shooters. Governor Abbott of Texas named the shooter Salvador Ramos, an 18-year-old. He has been killed. We don't know what weaponry he used, but it was quite a lot of firepower given the casualties that we have so far. Kathy, what else strikes you as you've been thinking about this mass casualty event and how agents would be responding to it?
Right. So they're going to be trying to put together a timeline. What was this 18-year-old doing in the last 24, 48 hours? What was he reading? What was he watching? Movies, videos, TikTok, YouTube videos. What was he doing? What was his mindset? And that's going to be very important to talk to his family. What did they see him doing? And, was he alone? Was he being quiet? Or was he, being loud and boisterous about what he was about to do. So they're going to really try to gather as much information as they can about the suspect, trying to put together this timeline, this psychological profile of who he was.
And now, Senator Chris Murphy is speaking on the Senate floor. Let's listen.
Reliving stepping over their classmates' bodies as they tried to flee the school. In one classroom, that word was monkey. And over and over through the day, kids would stand up and yell, monkey. And a teacher or a paraprofessional would have to go over to that kid, take them out of the classroom, talk to them about what they had seen, work them through their issues. Sandy Hook will never, ever be the same. This community in Texas will never, ever be the same. Why? Why are we here? If not to try to make sure that fewer schools and fewer communities go through what Sandy Hook has gone through, what Uvalde is going through. Our heart is breaking for these families. Every ounce of love and thoughts and prayers we can send, we are sending. But I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely. I understand my Republican colleagues will not agree to everything that I may support, but there is a common denominator that we can find. There is a place where we can achieve agreement that may not guarantee that America never, ever again sees a mass shooting, that may not overnight cut in half the number of murders that happen in America. It will not solve the problem of American violence by itself, but by doing something, we at least stop sending this quiet message of endorsement to these killers whose brains are breaking, who see the highest levels of government doing nothing, shooting after shooting. What are we doing? Why are we here? What are we doing? I yield the floor.
Chris Murphy. That was Senator Chris Murphy, former congressman of the 5th District of Connecticut, which included the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where in 2012, 26 people were killed. And Chris Murphy just on the floor of the Senate. We have just learned begging for some kind of gun legislation and that the parties come together to address these kinds of massacres. President Biden has been briefed on this horrific shooting in Texas at the Robb Elementary School. The White House says he will speak this evening when he arrives back from his trip to Asia. And here is the latest from Uvalde, Texas. 14 children and 1 teacher are dead after a shooting at Robb Elementary School. We know the 18-year-old suspect is also dead. Our coverage will continue on CBS News streaming, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm John Dickerson in Washington.
the school. We were just in front of that sign, the sign on the corner a few minutes ago, but we were asked to move back because the crime scene investigation is going to extend further toward this side of the school. Now you can see in the front of the school, we have a little bit better perspective now from where we're standing. That is San Antonio SWAT team in that the large Humvee vehicle out there. We saw the DEA here earlier today. We know the FBI crime scene investigative unit is here as well. We do know that most of the investigation is focused on the back of the school. We can't see where that law enforcement group is gathered any longer since we had to change positions, but you can see a canopy behind the school towards the back. I believe earlier somebody said the teacher's parking lot. Audrey said the teacher's parking lot. So that is where it looks like a command center is set up, and that's where the focus of the investigation is. However, we were just told that investigation is moving different areas closer to the front of the school. That's why we were asked to move at this time. And I can also tell you we're kind of tight over here with all the media that's starting to line up, but other community members have come out here today. We just talked to a school district employee, and I asked her, does she have a child at the school? And she just said, no, I just wanted to be here. Henry was just talking about how close and tight-knit this community is, and that's very true. Everyone here cares about each other, and including all the law enforcement right now, many of them from this community, DPS, Border Patrol, Sheriff's Office, who are from this community and may have friends or family members, children. They'll go to the school here. So it's definitely hitting this community very hard right now. Deb and Audrey, we're going to send it back to you. Well, that's right, Deborah. We did get the news shortly after the first calls came in today, and I jumped in the car and came out here not knowing exactly what to expect. When I got out here today, I can tell you when I arrived, they hadn't really even blocked the road off yet. Parents were lined up trying to figure out what was happening. The street was lined with community members and families trying to find out what was going on. All that they knew is that there was some kind of active shooter inside their child's school. And I can tell you, I was standing on the corner right there when many law enforcement officers walked out of that school, tears in their eyes. You could see in their faces something horrific had happened inside that school building today. In fact, that's exactly what Uvalde County Sheriff Nolasco told me when I talked to him right before I arrived, that this was just horrific. He said, our worst nightmare happened today. And now that we're learning about those deaths today, and the children and the teacher just hitting this community devastatingly hard. There are other community members here standing behind our cameras. We've also seen parents come up here trying to find out where their children are. They don't know where to go. They've been to the Civic Center, they've been to another area, and they're trying to find somebody to help them find their child and find out where they are. Many people have asked us out here what's happening inside that school building right now. We don't know. All that we can tell you is that it's an active investigation. The FBI is here. The crime scene unit is here. I know that assisting in the investigation is Border Patrol, FBI once again, DPS, Texas Rangers are also here, and the local law enforcement. Hit really hard, of course, because this is their community. They were the first ones that went inside that school building today. Uvalde police, I saw them walk out of that building today before a lot of the extra help arrived. DPS, a lot of these DPS troopers are local, these Border Patrol agents, they are from this area. And just seeing their faces was devastating today. And now that we understand what unfolded in that building, we can definitely see why. I think we had some video of before we even realized we saw officers hugging and praying in the streets. What they saw inside definitely very difficult for them. Audrey and Deb, we're going to send it back to you. Once again, we are waiting for some more details. One last detail before we go. I just talked to a DPS. They said they're working on a new staging area. They are going to release that information soon, and we will get that to you as soon as I have it. I'm just waiting to hear from them any minute now with that information, where that will be, and we can let those parents know where to go at this hour. They just asked us to move where we were standing on the corner a few minutes ago, and you can see what's pulling up over here. We haven't confirmed exactly what's going on. All that we were told when we were asked to move is that they were moving the investigation to the front of the school. We did see the Bexar County Medical Examiner pull up about 5 minutes ago. We've seen officials from the Texas Department of Emergency Management also here. That's along with this investigation with DEA is here, FBI is here, DPS has been here all afternoon along with Border Patrol and local law enforcement. As the events were unfolding inside this elementary school today. We're also seeing parents that are coming up here to the school trying to find out, ask questions, where are their children? We've seen half a dozen, maybe more parents come up here in the last hour asking law enforcement here how to find their children. They've been to the Civic Center, they've been to another area, and they have not been able to find them yet. I did talk to DPS. They said they are creating a new staging area. We're still trying to confirm where that is. As soon as we hear from DPS, we'll let you know as soon as we hear from them. I know that is in the works right now because we want to make sure that we can tell these parents something who are just hurting so much right now, trying to find out where their child is at this hour. Ugh.